Hi, I'm Jaz Coleman on Cheese on Toast. Joke has never been to New Zealand, although I first came to New Zealand in 1985 on the back of Love Like Blood, which was in the top 5, I think, at the time. And here we are, 2013, and in June, Killing Joke is actually going to come to New Zealand. And it's interesting speculating on why it's taken so long. I don't think the demand for Killing Joke is obviously that great in New Zealand. But the other thing is, when you think about the function of the music with Killing Joke, which we use Killing Joke's music as catharsis, to process, ideas like extinction and possible nuclear war and any sort of dark thoughts you care to imagine, really. We use the music as a means to process this, really. So it's therapeutic by nature, And then when you consider the backdrop of Killing Joke coming now to New Zealand, and New Zealand finds itself suddenly on the front line in a theatre of war, And suddenly safe green New Zealand isn't so safe, really, when you had North Korea said that our missiles can reach New Zealand, quote unquote, so you've got this situation in New Zealand where it's so expensive here because it's the same price as Switzerland, and actually London is cheaper. I mean, I'm talking about things like food and everything like this. You've got this situation where ordinary people, they don't earn so much here, and the food's very, very expensive. And then coupled with this, there is a global depression, and then the threat of possible nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula. And our trusty Prime Minister saying that there's no question about our support for South Korea. And so this is kind of highlighting foreign policy in this country, this situation, because in reality, this country's foreign policy should reflect its economic trading partners. And of course, number 1 is Australia. Well, no problems there. Our number 2 trading partner in the world is China. And our third trading partner, of course, is our friends, the United States of America. But here's the problem, you see, we have to get our priorities straight. And also take into consideration the fact that America has initiated 26 wars since the last World War. It might be a good idea to just be on the more cautious side with our foreign policy, which I don't see happening, which is a result of the electorate being misinformed about foreign policies. 65% of the nation is against the sale of national assets, and I think as the situation in North Korea develops for the worst, I fear, along with a possible flashpoint with Israel and Iran, that the world is going into dark times, and you see, against all this, now New Zealand will perhaps understand our music against its backdrop. Sad. It's very sad to hear of the death of any human being, really. And today, of course, I learnt about the death of Margaret Thatcher, which was kind of expected for some time now. The 80s were Killing Joke's kind of decade in a funny way, and Margaret Thatcher dominated the 80s. She was one of the reasons I left the United Kingdom, to be honest. On the one hand, it's hard not to admire her resolve as a person. On the other hand, she was the person who said that there is no such thing as society or community, there is only the family, which kind of put the sociology of United Kingdom back a couple of hundred years, you know, into a sort of feudalism. And so, you know, her views on nuclear weapons and just about everything really, privatisation, I think you could probably say I am the diametric opposite. You know, if there is such a thing, I don't really get involved with politics, to be perfectly honest. I voted once for the Green Party in my life, and I don't consider myself as a political creature, but a concerned citizen, yes, and a well-informed one at that also. I take great interest in geopolitics, and I love watching the world stage and see this mankind, this ape with a large brain, make all these destructive gestures, and it's incredible, isn't it? We can fly to the moon, but we can't keep our rivers clean. You know, we shit in our own food supply. You know, intelligence is only intelligence if it's applied intelligence. You know, yeah. Otherwise it's just kind of a theory. And I you know, you have these politicians across the West promising their constituents that there'll be more growth, but there can't be any more growth. It's all gone. You know, that's the problem. You know, the problem is that these antiquated ideas of growth. When you consider that in 15 years' time we'll actually need a planet and a half to supply our parasitic needs. I mean, take computer software, iPhones, etc. Think about the rare metals. There's only a finite supply of rare metals on the planet, and yet we suddenly think that there's going to be an endless supply of Microsoft commodities, and for the next 200 years we carry on like this. And again, this, you know, we need a new planet and a half in 15 years' time with this existing concept of growth. Growth is only growth if it supports and sustains human beings. You know, otherwise it's not really growth or any kind of prosperity at all, really, is it? And so, you know, New Zealand is seen by the rest of the world as this clean, green image, and we all know the truth about that. But here's the thing: there's a hell of a responsibility that goes on the shoulders of New Zealanders, because, you know, we're the last hope for the planet that we can get things right, that we can move to a sustainable, better way of living. And so if New Zealand fucks it up, there's no hope. What's happened is man has suddenly acquired fantastic knowledge. And knowledge can be described by this geometrical shape called the dodecahedron. As man learns how to use this knowledge ethically, having a reciprocal relationship with nature, then man will evolve into the icosahedron in terms of a geometrical shape, which is the geometrical expression of balance and truth, you know. And between these two geometrical shapes is the icosa dodecahedron, which actually literally means 2012 actually in it. So we're halfway between these two stages of a sustainable way of living that is close to nature, and the acquisition of raw knowledge. We're equidistant between these 2 points to describe it.